Hey gang, welcome back to the show. I hope everyone's hanging in there, staying safe and healthy. Just a quick reminder of my new self-care coaching opportunity. This month I was going to raise my prices, but decided not to due to the whole pandemic going on. And I feel like it's really important right now to be able to offer this service to you guys, my audience, to help you create a simple and sustainable self-care routine right now when it is needed the most. So it's still just 25 bucks. I'll include a link in my show notes and make sure you tune in. Over the next month, I'm going to be airing some live coaching calls that I've done with my clients just to give you an idea of my system that I help people create their self-care routines. So let's dig into today's episode. Hey friend, welcome to the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I'm your host, Emily Nichols. As a Whole30 certified coach, wife, busy working boy mom, and your self-care guru, I'm here to help you start putting yourself first without the guilt. Each week you'll hear motivating and practical tips on how you can create a habit of self-care through interviews with my amazing guests or quick solo episodes with me. After each episode, you'll walk away with an action plan and feel empowered to implement what you have learned into your life. So, grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine, or your favorite sparkling water, and let's do this. You're listening to episode 38 of the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. Dang, we're almost to 40 episodes. That's nuts, y'all. Thank you so much for listening and sharing the show. I hope, especially during this time where self-care is so important, and I know it's pretty challenging to make it a priority. I know I'm having a hard time sometimes too, but thank you so much for listening. I hope it's providing you some inspiration, and I know you're going to be really inspired by my guest today, Joffe, because I'm super inspired by her, and she's one of the people I love to follow on social media because of her consistency, for always showing up and just being a bright light. So let me tell you a little bit about Joffe. She's a certified holistic health coach, and she specializes in helping women, and in particular obese women, redefine their relationships with food. But she really focuses on how they can learn self-love and self-acceptance. And she's done this herself through her own journey. She's lost more than 100 pounds and completed a journey from compulsive overeating and self-hate to self-love. And like I said, you're going to be super inspired by her story today. And I know her clients are inspired by her to, not be the victim of their own circumstances, but rather be the architects of their own lives that they desire to live. Ugh, that's so good. So she's on a nationwide mission to support women in finding a fresh approach to eating, improving their energy and vitality, and simply looking and feeling their best. So she's the founder of Project Healthy Body and Who Quits Healthy, which is an online community, which is amazing. She's actually been featured on the Today Show and in Sheryl Sandberg's Opinion B, Facing Adversity, Building Resilience, and Finding Joy. She writes for Thrive Global. She's been featured by SoulCycle in A Soul Story, and she personally shares her story of being a healthy person online. Whew, that's a lot, but more so than anything, Joffe just really cares for people, and she has a story to share. And like I mentioned in her short intro here, she's no longer a victim to her circumstances. And, one thing she says in our conversation together is she figured out that she is the gatekeeper to her own well-being. And you, my friend, are the gatekeeper to your own well-being as well. So make sure you stick around to the end of this episode where I'll share my big 3 takeaways. I probably could have given you 10 takeaways, but I'm just going to limit it to 3. And make sure you have a pen and paper handy because I know you're probably going to want to take a lot of notes as well. So enjoy this conversation with my great friend, Joffe. All right, gang, welcome back to the Self Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I am here with my friend Jennifer Joffe, and I'm so glad to have you on the show. Welcome so much, Jennifer.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I love following you on social media. I have to tell you, you are so consistent, and
Uh,
I think that's a superpower, seriously.
it is one that I have worked hard to cultivate. It is
Yeah,
pretty much the key to everything I do in my life.
for sure, for sure. Well, before we dig into our conversation, I want to ask you first, what does self-care mean to you?
Mm, self-care mean to me. This is such a good question. Um, Especially, with everything going on in the world and some personal challenges that I've had just this past week. I'm reminded time and time again that self-care is controlling the things that I can actually control. So for me, self-care and self-love are the same thing. Self-love actually has a definition. It is regard for your own well-being and happiness.
Mm.
So for me, self-care is keeping my physical and emotional well-being at the forefront of my life. That's self-love. And what's interesting, Emily, is that definition was a game changer for me because I'm a questioner by nature with rebel tendencies. And I always felt that self-love was this really ambiguous concept. And when I saw those words, in print, they not only made perfect sense, but they became a guidepost for me because I am the gatekeeper of my own well-being and happiness.
Oh my gosh. I am the gatekeeper of my own well-being and happiness. I love that. It's
Oh,
true. It's true, but it takes some
it
time to
is.
figure that out.
Well, it took me 30 plus years. So yes.
Well, let's talk about it. Can you kind of tell everyone a little bit about yourself, kind of where you've been and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. So when I was 7 years old, my father died tragically in a plane accident the week before Thanksgiving. A few weeks prior to that, they had sold our home. So right after Christmas, we moved into a rental. And a few weeks after that, our dog was hit by a car and killed. And a few months after that, we packed up and moved to a new state so my mom could be closer to family. So, in a relatively short period of time, there was a fair amount of trauma. My father was very present. He was a very nurturing parent. And so things changed. Well, they changed really drastically after his death. My mom struggled greatly, as you can imagine. She also began to medicate with alcohol and in a sense distanced herself, I guess is how I would put it, from the loss and to some extent being engaged in her life. So I was in a home filled with anger, grief, alcohol, and food. And only one of those made sense. And so at a very early age, I developed a dependency on food. We had a walk-in pantry, and I can remember shutting the door and binging as early as 9, 10 years old. Of course, I had no idea that's what I was doing then. But really, food became comfort, safety, love. Death continued to be a very prominent theme in my younger years. By the time I was in my early 20s, I had been to 11 funerals of friends and family close to me of all ages.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. So as I grew up, I learned to medicate most any feeling with food. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to process life. I also lived in a place of fear, which, looking back makes perfect sense. Fear of another loved one dying, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So being a binge eater, I was a heavy child. And today, sadly, this isn't really a rare thing, but back then it wasn't common. So there was a lot of diet culture, and I joined in that dogma very early, around age 12, with my first quote unquote official diet, going to Nutrisystem. So now we have this lethal combination, right? We have binge eating, compulsive overeating, paired with times of restriction and deprivation, which really made a formula for total disaster. And honestly, it was, I get emotional just talking about it. It was all encompassing. It was exhausting. It was soul sucking. There was not a day in my life that I didn't wake up and think about food. What can I eat? What will I eat? Today's the day I'm going to change my life, lose the weight, and live happily ever after. So a few things happened. The first was in 2009. I was walking up the stairs to put my daughter down for a nap, and I almost fainted. I got very lightheaded and almost took us both down the stairs. I hadn't eaten. Back then I hummed around on non-fat, skinny vanilla lattes. I skipped breakfast. I actually gave up breakfast in middle school because, calories.
Right.
Um, why would I eat those early in the morning when I could save them for later? And this was a really dark time in my life. My dieting and food addiction had really taken their toll. I was 35, 36 years old. I had bad high cholesterol, low good cholesterol, high blood pressure. Let's see. I was taking Ambien for my chronic insomnia. I was carrying around Xanax for my anxiety, which was becoming debilitating panic attacks. I was considering going on an antidepressant. I was drinking a lot of wine just to cope. And I was obviously, with all of that going on, a pretty toxic person, really struggling in my marriage, my friendships, with my extended family. And I was really, really angry at my body. I could not understand why I had to have this struggle with my weight. It felt unfair. I felt broken. I mean, I tried everything. I had done everything anybody had ever suggested or told me to do. I had spent thousands of dollars and I could never get ahead. I felt like I was always falling further and further away from the vision that I had for my life and what it was supposed to look like in my mind. So that day, I put my daughter down for her nap and I walked in the bathroom. Sorry.
Okay. You take
Yeah,
your time.
it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really saw myself. I was obese. I was 100 pounds overweight. My skin was yellow. I had acne. My hair was thinning. I didn't have a neck. My eyes were these little slants in my face. I couldn't see my own toes. My body was stiff. My mobility wasn't awesome. Things were starting to hurt. Like when I would get up off the couch or out of bed, I'd kind of have to shake myself out a little to get going. So for whatever reason on that day, in that moment, I was able to let go of skinny. I can't explain it any other way than this. I just remember looking at myself and thinking to myself, okay, you're supposed to be fat. So let's just stop fighting it. It's just who you are, right? You're 35. I think I was just about to turn 36, 35 years old. This is who you are. It's the card you got dealt. But there's got to be a way to feel better. This cannot be how I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life feeling. So that afternoon when Ellie got up from her nap, I went to the bookstore and we had those back then.
Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I was not looking for a diet. I was looking for a book on food and mental health or food and feeling better. Fortunately now we have a lot of resources for this, but it wasn't as common back then. I don't know. I was following my intuition is really the best I can put it. And right there in the front was this book by Michael Pollan called In Defense of Food. And I thought, this looks good. I brought it home. And on the first page, he said something, I don't have it in front of me, but he said something along the lines of, I would love to drag this out through the book and make this really complicated for the sake of keeping you reading. But this is really simple. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Man, I tell you, Emily, it was like somebody had thrown cold water on my face. I mean, what? I had done everything, but I had never done that. I had goldfish on the table. I was opening my second string cheese. I'd cracked probably my third or fourth Diet Coke of the day. And I literally stopped in my tracks. I walked over to the fridge, opened it up, and I just stood there and I felt overwhelmed with stupidity. And the reason I use that word is I think of myself as a very smart person. Like I get things, I get concepts, I get life, logic. And there I was with a refrigerator full of everything packaged, processed, not one living thing. Everything was low fat, non-fat, reduced fat, fat-free, sugar-free. And here's the kicker, like even the apples I had were sliced in little packages.
Right.
I mean, how hard is it to slice an apple? Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. So the easiest way to explain it is I stopped chasing skinny. I started chasing healthy. I wanted to feel better, period. So I started adding in real whole foods. And this really, I think, was the key to my success and where I'm at now, which was I started optimizing systems and building habits to sustain the changes I was making. And I knew a lot about this. I knew a lot about business. I owned a software company at the time. I mean, it was a job I hated. It was soul sucking.
Mm.
But that was what I did. And I had been part of the first dot-com bubble back in the late 90s, early 2000s in the Bay Area. And I had learned a lot about how to build things. I had this really amazing boss in my 20s. He was British and he was the VP of engineering. And he was always teaching me how to go slow, prioritize, pair your vision with your actions, look at the big picture. And he also introduced me to tools like we all had to have Franklin Covey planners. I remember reading The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. There was a book back then called Habit Stacking. S.J. Scott, The 1 Minute Manager. I'm sorry, they're coming like crazy now. Who Moved the Cheese, which is actually one of my lessons in PhD. A great book on change. So I just started applying everything I knew about my work life to my health.
Yeah.
And I started building. And over about 4 years, I lost 66 pounds, which if you're a career dieter and you do that math, it's not very much. Like there's a time in my life I would have said, what's the point? Without dieting, without altering my life drastically. I threw out that all or nothing because it never worked.
Right.
And that was kind of the phase 1. And then there was the phase 2. So at the end of phase 1, I was living a pretty good life. I was hanging out around 180. And when you've been 250, 180 feels really good.
Yeah.
I was just staying there using my systems, and it was freeing to know after a lifetime of dieting, I would never have to diet again. And I'm proud to say the last diet I did do was the fall of 2009 when I did Slim Fast for the 9 millionth time. Have you ever looked at the ingredients in those?
I would just die if I did, because I used to drink the cans of those like for breakfast in high school.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're the worst. And I was drinking 3 or 4 a day. Crazy.
Well, you know better, you do better.
Yes, exactly. So what's interesting though is I didn't lose any more weight. And I don't think I realized it then because I really didn't care. Like I just felt good, right? I was like, okay, this is great. But I was still a slave to the scale.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't trust my new life. I didn't trust that it was going to hold. And 30 years up against 4 of doing things a new way. And I also now know that I think the reason I was stuck there is I wasn't really, you and I were talking about this earlier, I wasn't really fully stepping into my life. I was still fearful of being too happy or living too big or being too successful because, that other shoe is going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like I believed if I'm too happy, it'll all be taken from me. So I'm going to just hang out here at good enough, the land of good enough.
Mm.
And then life intervened again. So 2015, a series of back-to-back events just, basically changed my life forever. The first was my daughter got hit by a car riding her bike home from school. I think I had probably a little bit of PTSD looking back at it. But physically she was okay. She had lots of road rash, cuts, bruises, but mentally she was a mess. I was a mess. After we would get her to sleep at night, I was back in the wine, back on the sugar. It was Girl Scout cookie season. I was eating sleeve after sleeve after sleeve of cookies. It just all felt like too much, and it felt really unfair. Yeah. Unfair for her. The car had run her over from behind. She was in the street doing everything right. It was an elderly driver with an expired driver's license. And great, I'm so grateful. It obviously was not her time. Her bike went under the car, but she slid forward and to the left. My poor husband witnessed the whole thing, so he was dealing with his own trauma. Mm-hmm. And for me, it played into my script that bad things happen and they're going to keep happening. And what's the point of all this? I felt very much like a victim. My language to myself was sort of, have I not been through enough? Have I not paid my dues? Very egocentric. I had been my whole life. But so anyway, I spiraled. I was putting weight back on. I was right back into my old patterns. Sure. And then a few months later, my friend's husband dropped dead. They were on vacation in Mexico, and it was beyond my comprehension. Her daughter was 7 years old at the time, which was the same age I was when my dad died. And the combination of it all just really overwhelmed me, right? Like, how come these things keep happening to me and around me? And this friend is the one who changed my life really forever. She, not immediately, it took time, but she proclaimed that she was going to fight for her joy. She was not going to let her husband's death define their lives, but rather losing him had helped her see everything she had. And she had this deep gratitude for it all. And she was going to live her best life to the fullest in his honor and lead her children in life the way he would have wanted, living and being present. And this struck me deeply, mind, body, and soul, the same way Michael Pollan's words had earlier. I thought, wait, what? This is an option? It's an option to prosper and thrive and find joy and meaning and let beautiful new things grow from tragedy and loss. What? I didn't know. I had never had that modeled for me. Yeah. So in the same way I let go of skinny, I let go of all the fear right there. I mean, we're all going to die. Yeah. I know this. I learned this at an early age. So why had I been hanging on so tight, white knuckling life like I could control it by not living it? So I said, F it, and I started living it. And I'll tell you, Emily, each day, each month, each year, I'm lucky enough to be here. It gets better and better and better.
Hey gang, cutting in on this conversation real quick to tell you about my friends at The New Primal. I love this company not only because they make Whole30 approved sauces and meat sticks with just clean ingredients, but because of their mission of returning to the table. You know, food really does bring people together, and with all of our busy lives, it's hard to sit down to a meal together with your own family and your other loved ones. But The New Primal is really focused on community and bringing people together around food. And why not do that with clean ingredients? I use their classic marinade weekly. Their mustard barbecue is the perfect dipping sauce, and their ketchup as well. My kids love all their different spicy buffalo sauces as well. And like I said, their meat sticks are Whole30 approved, so I always have some in my handbag or in my glove compartment in my car if I need a quick emergency snack. So head over to thenewprimal.com and you can use the code EmilyNichols22 to receive 15% off your order. So remember, go to newprimal.com and let us know how you are returning to the table and connecting with others through food and The New Primal. Isn't that amazing? Just that simple shift from just watching your friend, and then that simple statement and that book just totally changed your life, like you said, in two different phases.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I love your story. And I love how you just focus on being healthy and that's taken some time because like you said, 30 years of having this particular mindset or this way of thinking or coping, and those old habits, work their way back in 2015 for you because that's what you knew. It takes time, and I just don't think people give themselves enough grace and time to give themselves the time to adjust and figure it out.
No, I think, we live in a very instant gratification world and time. And I think to some extent, well, I'll speak for myself. I felt entitled, right? Like I did this diet. I followed this meal plan. I should have lost 30 pounds in 2 months and I didn't. So screw it. And then I would go back to those same habits and routines that actually caused me to be unhealthy.
Yeah.
Which really makes no sense. Right. And I also want to add, I don't own a scale. I have not weighed myself since February of 2016. And it is the most I get weighed at the doctor, sure. But I don't weigh myself 3 times a day like right? I did for 30 years.
So free. I just had a Whole30 client. Yesterday was day 30. And she was very attached to the scale. Like the first week, she's like, I think I want to weigh myself. And I was like, I think you don't. So don't. And we were talking the other day and I said, are you going to weigh yourself on day 31? She goes, I don't think I want to. And she was texting me today. She goes, I have no desire to weigh myself, because she had that light bulb moment. She had that mindset shift. She was like, why bother? She goes, I feel amazing. She goes, and if I
Right.
get on that scale and see I only lost like 3 or 4 pounds, that will negatively affect me. She goes, why put myself in that situation?
Yeah. We're more than a number.
Yes.
And, I say this to my clients all the time. If we, being that we're smart women,
Yep.
if you step back, no one's ever going to know your number. Meaning, it's not like if you hit that magical number, you get it tattooed on your forehead or you get some like sticker, gold star. Oh, look, she weighs 135.
Yeah.
Yet we put everything into this number, this place that
Yeah.
is really irrelevant. It's how we feel inside. It's that
Yeah.
vitality and that energy.
Oh my gosh. Well, can you tell everyone a little bit more about Project Healthy Body? Because I think this is such an amazing way for you to help other people, specifically women, but also build such an amazing, strong community of women supporting each other.
Yeah, I would love to. Um, PHB is a labor of love. It's the roadmap I used to heal my life while I lived my life, my best life as a
Mhm.
healthy person. It began as a weight loss program designed for overweight and or obese women like I was, women stuck on the hamster wheel of diet culture like I was. And it is that. I want to be clear about that. For women who want to lose weight or need to lose weight out of medical necessity, it is a weight loss program. I don't want to diminish that because I believe very strongly that wanting to lose weight is okay.
Yeah.
Um, but more aptly, it's a self love program. And it's interesting how it's evolved. Each year, we enroll more and more women who, sure, some might want to lose 15 or 20 pounds. And of course, we still have women who are obese and morbidly obese. But we're now even seeing women coming and applying who have normal BMIs. And what's really interesting, at first, this blew me out of the water. I thought, what? Why in the world would you want to spend 20 weeks in this program? But what what I've realized is they too lack self love and they want to learn how to love themselves, to love the life they're living, to not obsess about what to eat or how to eat or how much to eat or what they weigh. And they want to break free from their lives as career dieters. And they want to learn how to be healthy people, how to take care of their emotional and physical needs on their own. So two things enabled me to break free, I feel, from career dieting. It was and to recover from emotional eating. And I want to add a caveat really here. I'm sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I had a lot of therapy.
Yes.
And I actually, in the legal contract that my clients sign, they are either letting us know if they already have a therapist, that therapist is on board with them doing our program, or they are saying if the time comes in doing this work that my coach feels I could use a therapist, I'm open to getting one.
That's great.
Um, it's essential.
Yes.
It's essential. It's very interesting, Emily, because I think, the millennials, the younger generation, they're very woke. They all have therapists,
They are
but
so open to like talking about mental health and their feelings. Like I'm 38 and I would have never talked about that at my age. God forbid my parents would have talked to me
right.
about it or what struggles they were facing. Like there's you're right, they're woke.
Yeah, and I'm 46 on my way to 47, and it's amazing how many women, I would say between 35 and up, there is a lot of pushback, like I shouldn't need it, I should be able to figure this out on my own, nothing's wrong with me. And I'm always explaining like this, seeing a therapist doesn't mean something's wrong with you, right? It's a way to process and to get different perspective. And when you do identify areas that you struggle, to help somebody, to have somebody help you dig into those. And then, of course, there is a segment of the population that comes into PHB that does have trauma from their childhood, like I did. And that can show up in many ways. It can be, being taken advantage of sexually. It can be growing up in an abusive household. It can be just moving around a lot because your parents, your dad was in the military. It wouldn't have been your mom back then, but now it could be either.
Wow.
It can be anything. And sometimes we suppress it and don't even realize that's playing a role in why we're turning to food or other bad habits to not feel our feelings.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted everyone to know I did do a lot of work around my emotional eating, and I was a food addict, and I now refer to myself as a recovering food addict.
Yeah.
I am in recovery.
Yeah.
So, yeah, were you going to say something?
I was
Sorry.
just going to say, it's just such an internal transformation more so than physical. I think the physical just comes along with the mental.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So taking all of the stuff the business references I made, it was identifying patterns, creating new habits, and then really the essential part for me was immersing myself in, excuse me, community, and that kept me accountable. So letting others see me, this freed me from this lifetime of shame and allowed me to break my shame spirals, which then allowed me to kick out my negative roommate. That in PHB is what we call the voice in your head that
Ah,
shows up. Yeah, she shows up to tell you you can't and you shouldn't, and loves to remind you you're going to fail, and you can't get anything right, and so why even try? That inner critic. So we do all of this in PHB. And I am a certified health coach. I am a Whole30 certified coach, but truly I think of myself as a habit coach.
yeah.
And that's the foundation of this program is we teach women how to build healthy habits, systems to sustain those habits for the long haul, no quick fixes, because we have to lose the weight or whatever it is in your life you're working to change. You have to do it the same way that you're going to sustain that change.
Mm,
um, I think the mistake that I always made, and I see most of my clients make, is we think we can step out of our life as it is. I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to improve things. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get my blood pressure down. I'm going to, get my blood sugars down, do everything the doctor asked me to do, or whatever it is we think we need to fix. And then I'm going to go back to the life that made me unhealthy.
yeah.
And then we're always shocked when the unhealthy habits kick back in and the weight comes back.
Yeah.
So what we're really teaching is women how to make these changes while they live their lives, because we have to build habits we love, we enjoy, that light us up. And it can't be what lights somebody else up, because if you hate doing something, you're not going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Period.
I just read a book the other day. Oh, now I can't remember the name of it. It's a new book about habits. And he was saying, you don't change usually doesn't stick if it's coming from a place of negativity. Like if it's coming like, like you put on a pair of jeans and they won't button and you're like, oh, I'm just so overweight and I'll never could wear these jeans again. I'm just going to go diet. It won't work. But if it's
Right.
coming from a place of self-love and positivity, like you teach, that's when it'll finally become sustainable and they're able to live out a sustainable lifestyle, being healthy, not necessarily being skinny.
Absolutely. What was it? Atomic Habits?
No, it's not Atomic Habits, but I
Stick
love
with
James
it.
Clear.
Tiny Habits, Power Habit,
It's
Hooked.
brand new. I'm gonna have to send it to you because you would
Yeah.
love it.
Oh, if it's new, I haven't read
Yep,
it.
it's like brand new, like in the past month.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's what we do is
Yeah.
we take sustainable habits and stack one on top of another, and they support your health goals, both physical and emotionally. It's a 5-month long program. It's all hands on deck, the client, the coaches, the community. The online community is a combination of veteran students and new students all working together on their health goals. Active clients additionally have a 1-hour call each week with their coach and 4 to 6 other women. They have homework assignments. They're asked to be active participants in the community. This is really essential to the healing process and to sustaining those habits. It's so they can be seen and see others. They can be supported and support others. And through all of this, we address, everything: emotional eating, fear, scarcity, identifying feelings, processing feelings, owning your story, finding balance in all areas of our life. And we really dust off the unlived parts of our lives, right? The whole "that ship has sailed" storyline, or "I'm too old and it's too late," or "it wasn't meant to be." And we pair all of that with movement, hydration, lots of education around what food is and what food is not, and how we identify what our bodies need to thrive, which, as you know, is never the same for any two women, right?
Exactly. And you got to find that for yourself. But having that community, just to have some other women to be like, I've felt that way too, or I've done something like that too. It's very vulnerable, but it makes you feel not so alone.
Oh, yeah. It's a game changer. Listen,
Mhm.
being a healthy person is not a solo sport, meaning
Yes.
we
Yeah. Oh,
need to tell our stories so we can lift the
yeah.
shame, shine the light on our authentic selves, allow our people to find us, because we need connection.
Yeah, we crave it, and I don't think we do a good job of going out and finding it sometimes.
No, it's scary. And
It's
I think
weird. It's
the
like,
more
"Hey, you wanna be my
isolated you get.
friend?" And it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's awkward.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this, Jennifer. What does your self-care look like for you now versus back then?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, knowing what I know now,
Mhm.
I can honestly tell you I didn't have any self-care back then.
Yeah.
Um, I thought a spa day or a night out with girlfriends, drinking and eating all the things was me time.
Mm.
I think everything I did back then was about decompressing, needing a break from responsibility, checking out, tuning out. I thought that was self-care. So I think today I would say that it's a flip of all of that. Self-care for me is tuning in, not out. It's self-agency. It's accountability to myself. It's taking responsibility for all areas of my own life. Um, owning my story, advocating for my needs, honoring my feelings. That's what self-care looks like for me. So sometimes that means I focus and finish when it comes to a work project. Sometimes it means a hike. Sometimes it means a night out with friends, seeing them and being seen, focusing on the time with the people I love versus the food and the booze. And honestly, Emily, sometimes it's still a spa day, but probably not one where I leave with a champagne hangover.
Right?
Um, more likely one where I leave feeling immense gratitude for this amazing body that carries me through life.
Yeah. I mean, healthy means something different to everybody, but I think ultimately it means just feeling good in the skin that you're in and living life to the fullest. Because, like you said, we're all not going to be around forever. And you
Right.
want to make sure you're living the best life possible, not only for you, but for the ones around you. Because I'm sure once you started getting healthy, a lot of people around you started getting healthier too.
Yeah, I think it's a ripple, right? And also it attracted healthy people into
Mhm.
my life. So I had even more people to help support the new foundation that I was building. And I am always learning. I mean, I look at what other people are doing and I'm like, how are you doing that? I want to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I could talk to you forever about that.
I know, me too.
Oh my gosh, but I will wrap up. Can you tell everyone where they can connect with you online and keep being inspired by you? Well, I just saw on your Instagram stories the Instapot beats. My
Oh
mind
yeah.
was blown.
Yeah.
Blown.
Yeah, that you know where that came from? That
Where?
came from me being really lazy in the kitchen.
Oh,
It's
same.
funny.
I keep it so simple.
Yeah, and I think, it's that's one of the things that I find a lot of my clients get really hung up with healthy eating is they think it has to be all of these recipes. And I obviously I'm a recovering food addict. I'm not going to spend 6 hours a day in the kitchen. That's just a bad idea.
Bad idea.
So I keep things simple and efficient. And yeah, I thought I went to wash these beets one day and I'm like, why am I washing these when they're about to be cooked at, whatever degree that's going to kill everything in here? And I'll just wash them after. And then when I went to wash them after, everything just peeled right off. And I was like, this is amazing. Game changer.
I love it. I mean, anything simple. I mean, I just posted on my stories today. I was like, here's your top food tips. I was like, keep it simple, add a bunch of sauces, and eat colorful. Like, it's like,
Exactly.
keep it simple.
Perfect.
Oh, gosh.
Um,
Well, where can everyone find you online?
Sure. Instagram at Project Healthy Body or at Who Quits Healthy. There's two different websites. Who Quits Healthy, I should probably say something about that. It's
Mhm.
a community that's open to all women. So you
Mhm.
don't have to want to lose weight. You do not have to join Project Healthy Body. It's for all women working on any aspect of their health. We have groups in there discussing, you can discuss weight loss if you want, but there's also movement, meditation, menopause, sobriety, healthy baking, whole 30, that kind of thing. And the one thing I know for sure is we are all better together and we all elevate when we see others and we share our healing journeys. We thrive with community, and that's what I do is I help cultivate community. So yeah, it's awesome. Pair the habits, creating habits with community, and you're going to be off to a really good start.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I think you're going to help a lot of people. And I think a lot of people will relate to what you said today. And hopefully they can start finding a way to take action just based off what you said today.
Well, thank you, Emily, and thank you for giving me this space to share my story. And thank you for all the work you're doing. I think you're amazing.
Oh, right back at you.
All right. Take care.
Let's take a collective big deep breath. I feel so inspired after listening to that episode, and I know you do as well. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know everyone was scribbling down like crazy a bunch of notes. I'm going to try and share just 3 big takeaways for everybody from our conversation today. Number 1, you have a choice in life. Let me say that again. You have a choice in life. Like Jennifer said, there was 2 different phases of her life. The first phase, she chose to feel good. She just wanted to feel good. She wanted to feel healthy, and she was going to stop chasing skinny, lose all of the diet BS, and just figure out what's going to make her feel her best and ultimately be her healthiest mind and body. That's a choice. You have a choice. Which path are you going to choose? The second phase of her life, she decided to choose joy instead of fear. In her mind, she was like, there's a choice. And there's a choice too. I know right now everyone is feeling a bit anxious with everything going on. There's so much uncertainty in the world. And I know there's some hard things going on as well. You may have lost your job, or you're not getting as much income coming in, or your business has shifted. Your kids are at home and you're worried about their mental health as well. And that's okay. But if you get stuck in the deepest, darkest pit of despair and darkness and fear and anxiety, it's going to be really hard to dig yourself out of that even after we're done with this pandemic. You're setting up yourself for new habits that aren't healthy for you. Make the shift in your mind, but give yourself some time. It may not happen overnight. I think by incorporating ways to make you feel your best and healthy, you'll be able to get yourself out of that pit. It won't be as deep. You'll be able to jump in and out of it a lot easier. And I get it. I feel like right now such an emotional roller coaster. But like Jennifer said, I am still going to always pick joy over fear. You have a choice. What are you going to choose? Choose wisely. Number 2, habits. Like I mentioned early in the episode, Jennifer is consistent. Do you think she found all that overnight? No, it took some time for her to figure out what was going to help her feel her best. Like I mentioned in her bio, eating the way to make her feel the best, moving her body, but more than anything, creating a habit and routine that was going to help her feel her best. Remember, that was a choice. And habits take a while to figure out. I'll link in the show notes Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. It was the book I couldn't remember in Jennifer and I's conversation, but it's a really great book that I use for figuring out how to create habits that are simple and sustainable and will stick. But like I mentioned, it has to come from a place of positivity. Setting up new habits or a self-care routine like I do with my clients, if it's coming from a place of negativity, more than likely it's not going to stick. It needs to come from a place, like Jennifer mentioned, of self-love. Everything you do is out of love for yourself, not out of hate for your body, but love for yourself. So as you're trying to figure out what's going to make you feel your best, creating a new habit, do it out of love for yourself. That's what I focus on with my clients. A big thing that we focus on is not only health, like movement and food, but also mindfulness and changing the narrative in your head, which is hard sometimes. I get it. But that takes time as well. Give yourself some grace. And above all, when creating any type of new habit, do it out of love for yourself. And lastly, I loved this. Jennifer said, being healthy isn't a solo sport. You need people to support you and love you and cheer you on along the way. And like she said, everyone around her, you start noticing when you start feeling your best and getting healthier, you start inspiring people around you. You start manifesting a life that's full of joy and just brightness, and that's how she exudes and comes across. That is totally Jennifer's vibe. But like she says, she attracts those type of people into her life, and those are the type of people you need to surround yourself with, friends. People that are going to lift you up, get you out of that deep dark pit of despair you may be in right now, which is okay. You have connection. You have to have connection and community to help you get you out of that. I know that's hard sometimes, making new friends, especially as adults, like we talked about in the opposite episode. You don't want to feel awkward. But if you start living your healthiest life, you're going to manifest those people to come into your life. And so what you can think about doing is finding, using technology right now, since we're social distancing, to connect with people in Facebook groups, on Instagram, finding connection in those ways with people that you love the way they make you feel. Not that you want to be like them or you're comparing yourself to them or, oh, I love her shoes and her lifestyle. She seems she has it all together. But people that make you feel good, that you don't want to compare yourselves to them. You know what I mean? But they make you feel good. You know what I'm talking about. You follow certain people on social media and you're like, oh, they just make me feel so good. And you follow some people and you're like, oh, I wish I had, this or that. It happens. It's just human nature, right? But you have to find some way to connect right now. And being healthy is not a solo sport. Find people to help you and cheer you along the way. Okay, I think that's it for now. Jennifer, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you taking the time. You rocked this conversation. If you want to connect with Jennifer, make sure to check out the show notes. I have links to her website and Instagram so you can feel inspired by her as well. And make sure you connect with me on Instagram as well at Emily Nichols22 and at the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. Share a screenshot of today's episode, tag Jennifer and myself. Let us know your biggest takeaways. And if you're loving today's show, make sure to leave a rating and review in iTunes. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I'm here for you. I love you all. If you're interested in reaching out about self-care coaching, send me a message over on Instagram. I'm happy to help you. I want to help you because I know the power of creating a self-care routine and loving yourself, especially during this time. Thanks again to Jennifer Joffe. I'll see you all again next week. And remember, self-care isn't selfish.